This is my biggest Apothecary Diaries project yet, and it took me days to research, write, and edit. So if you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please consider leaving a like and a comment, and subscribing would go a long way in supporting the channel. This video has timestamps, so you can jump to any section you're most interested in. However, I've structured the information to build on itself, so for the best experience, I recommend watching it in order. My hope with this video is to explain everything that's happening in the world of the Apothecary Diaries, so that the story becomes clearer and ultimately more enjoyable. To understand how this world functions, from the palace down to red light district, we need to start with the big picture that begins with geography, where everything is and why it matters. While we don't have an official map of the world, I'll be using everything we've seen in show and story to piece together an approximate layout, and show how every part of this setting is brilliantly crafted, with each element making perfect sense within the narrative. The main setting takes place in the country of Li, a vast empire divided into 3 major provinces: the Western Province, the Northern Province, and the Central Province. Each of these regions is governed by one of the empire's most powerful clans, with the clan head ruling from their provincial capital. The society in the Apothecary Diaries is built around a rigid clan system where power and status are determined by one's family lineage. This is made clear from the very beginning of the story, where Lihua had more ladies-in-waiting because she came from a more prominent clan, unlike Gyokuyou, who had more limited privileges. Clans use strategic marriages, especially of daughters, to gain favor in the imperial court. This system creates intense competition, hidden agendas, and power struggles as clans aim to elevate their influence through the success of their members within the palace hierarchy. We'll see how this led to many of the tragic events within the imperial bloodline later in the video. In the map shown, you can see how the layout of the land plays into the story, with the country of Li bordered by at least 3 other nations: Anan, Shao, and Hokuai. Naturally, the more neighbors a country has, the more opportunities there are for rising tensions, especially when it comes to border disputes. Strategically, the capital of Li was placed deep within the central province, the farthest point from any foreign threat. Surrounded by rivers and lakes, and with naval warfare not being a major concern in this era, the imperial palace's location was chosen to maximize security and stability. Near the central province lies the country of Anan, a vassal state under the control of La. Due to its subordinate status, Anan poses no real threat to the nation's central capital. Inside the central province lie the 2 most important locations in the story: the Imperial Palace and the Red Light District. The Imperial Palace itself is divided into 2 sections: the outer court, where officials and administrators manage the affairs of the nation, and the inner court, where the emperor's consorts and their attendants reside. The higher a consort's rank, the more influence she holds, and the more ladies serve under her. These consorts are generally divided into 3 ranks: low, mid, and high. The empress is usually chosen from among the high-ranking consorts, with the most important qualification being that she has borne a child for the emperor. But even in this rigid structure, fate and circumstance can change everything. Empress Regnant was never supposed to ascend to her position. Her son, the former emperor, only rose to power after a deadly plague wiped out all of the other emperor's sons, leaving him as the sole surviving heir. And so, through tragedy, she became the empress of the nation. The inner court is also known as the Flower Garden, a secluded world where only women reside. The only men permitted to enter are eunuchs, castrated servants who handle labor and security within the palace walls. We've touched on this in previous videos, but it's important to note that this rule wasn't always in place. It was Empress Regnant who implemented this policy, and it was a calculated move. Her goal was to eliminate the risk of scandal within the palace, to prevent secret affairs and illegitimate children from threatening the political balance. By surrounding herself with eunuchs, she ensured that those who served her in the inner court would have fewer personal ties and ambitions, making them more likely to stay loyal. Now take notice of how every storyline somehow loops back to the Empress Regnant, whether it's the slave trade, the inner court, the consorts, Jinshi's birth, or even Maomao's upbringing. She's connected to all of them. It might not be an exaggeration to say that she's the most important character in the entire story. Empress Regnant gave birth to the man who would become known as the Deaf Emperor. His reign and behavior were heavily shaped by a troubled and tragic. At first, many believed that the PDF Emperor's trauma stemmed from his mother, Empress Regnant, and her strict, calculating nature. Her decision to isolate him from other heirs and control his environment made it easy to assume she was the root of his fear of older women. But as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that she was trying to protect him all along. Sources suggest that during his youth, the former emperor may have suffered severe trauma, possibly inflicted by older women, which caused him to develop a deep fear and mistrust of them. As a result, he surrounded himself only with very young girls within the palace. Two of these girls were Taihu and Anshi, both brought into the inner court at a young age. Taihu gave birth to the Banished Princess, while Anshi became the mother of the current emperor. This brings us to one of the most important aspects of the Apothecary Diaries, the role of women and families in this society. From the moment a girl is born into a noble family, she is often treated less as a person and more as a political asset. Daughters are used to gain favor, status, or influence, usually by being sent into the inner court, where their value is measured by how close they can get to power. For commoner girls, the options are more limited. Most are left to choose between three paths: working in the red light district, becoming servants for wealthier families, or entering the inner court as ladies-in-waiting. Only in rare cases, such as with Maomao, do we see women rising above these limits. Maomao, despite being a commoner, became a physician thanks to her adoptive father, who passed on his knowledge and training. On the other side of the court, if you're born into a powerful clan, chances are you'll be offered to the inner court, used as a pawn to gain favor and elevate your family's status. That's exactly what happened to Taihu. Her family sent her into the palace as Shenmi's lady-in-waiting, hoping she would bear the emperor's child and bring glory to their name. But things didn't go as planned. Taihu and her daughter were later banished from the inner palace, accused of having an affair with a palace physician. This scandal is critical to understand. Inside the inner court, men are rarely present. The only men allowed in are eunuchs, castrated, incapable of fathering children. The emperor is the sole exception. So when Taihu was discovered pregnant and the child's paternity came into question, the blame conveniently fell on the only other man with the physical ability to father a child, the palace physician. He, Taihu, and the child, who would come to be known as the Banished Princess, were all exiled. On the other hand, Anshi's story played out differently. Her family, well aware of the PDF Emperor's twisted preferences, strategically placed her in the inner court as a lady in waiting to her older half-sister. As expected, Anshi was assaulted by the emperor and became pregnant. But unlike Taihu, Anshi's family acted fast. They publicly announced the pregnancy, forcing the emperor to take Anshi as his wife before the court could intervene. Let's return to the map for a moment. During the former emperor's reign, it became forbidden to export or trade slaves with neighboring countries. However, the Shi clan in the northern district continued this illegal practice, and Empress Regnant struggled to suppress it. It was during this period that Shishou, a man not from the main family, stepped in with a solution. He proposed relocating the slaves into the inner palace and restructuring it to accommodate. Later, in recognition of his achievements, Empress Regnant granted him Meimei as another wife, with whom he had a second daughter, Loumen. After the former emperor's death, Shishou was promoted to prime minister, placing him directly beneath the emperor in authority. His political influence became so immense that not even the emperor could easily remove him. Now let's take a look at the current emperor's consorts. At the start of the story, they include Ah Dou, Lihua, Gyokuyou, Lishu, and Fuyou. However, due to Shishou's strong influence, he had Ah Dou removed and replaced with his own daughter. Lihua is a distant relative of the emperor, coming from a powerful family. This grants her a strong position in the inner court, with one of the largest retinues of ladies-in-waiting, Shin serving as her head lady. On the other hand, Gyokuyou is said to be the daughter of Gyokuyou, the governor of the western province. At least that's what's publicly known. In reality, her mother, originally from Shishou, was impregnated by an unknown man, making Gyokuyou's true parentage a mystery. Because her family background wasn't as distinguished as other high consorts, it was Jinshi who personally selected her to become a high-ranking consort at the age of 18. While we're on the topic of Jinshi, he's officially known as the son of Anshi and the former emperor. He was born as a form of twisted revenge after Anshi was assaulted by the former emperor, making him the so-called Imperial brother. But that's not how things really happened. Anshi did have a second child, one indeed born out of revenge, but that child was born on the same day as Jinshi. The truth is, Jinshi's real parents are the current emperor and Ah Dou. Now, you might be wondering, how could Ah Dou give birth to Jinshi when it's well known she can't have children? Well, the reason she can't have children is because of Jinshi. His birth was so difficult that Loumen, the palace physician at the time, had to remove her womb to save her life. Jinshi's condition at birth was so dire that Ah Dou and Anshi agreed to secretly swap their children. Ah Dou wanted to save him, knowing that a child of Anshi's status would receive immediate care, and to add yet another layer of complexity, Anshi's lady-in-waiting was Swiren, who is actually Ah Dou's mother. This is how the emperor and Ah Dou first met. Now, Swiren serves as Jinshi's lady-in-waiting. Now back to the current emperor's consorts. Yu is another notable figure, hailing from the vassal state of Anan, which itself is under the control of the country of Luck. As Anan's third princess, Yu was sent to Li to serve as a courtesan for Emperor Yang. But rather than accept this fate, she purposely sabotaged her chances because she was in love with another man. To escape her role, she pretended to be mentally unwell. Her act worked. Seeing her as unfit for court life, the emperor dismissed her and gifted her to the man she loved. Eventually, she returned to Anan. The last of the emperor's consorts is Lishu. She was originally sent to the former emperor by her own family, who exploited his disturbing preference for young girls. But the current emperor, along with Ah Dou, intervened and rescued Lishu from that fate. To shield her from being returned to her family and used again, they made her a high-ranking consort. Now, since we've touched upon Shishou, it's worth mentioning two key characters from there, Ayla and Aylin. Both are apprentice shrine maidens studying under the High Shrine Maiden. They were sent to the country of Li to serve as envoys. Now, we've talked about Maomao and how she was raised by Loumen, a man deeply knowledgeable in poisons and medicine. We still have more to say about him, and believe me, the theories around Loumen go absolutely wild. But first, let's shift our focus to the Red Light District and the Verdigris House, the most prominent establishment in the area. Every woman who begins working at Verdigris House is given a rank, and that rank increases based on how many customers she brings in and her artistic talents. Take Fen Xin, Maomao's mother, for example. Even though she never engaged in sexual activities, she became a well-known figure simply through her exceptional skills in playing the game of Go. Her popularity was so high that even Lacan, who was just a soldier at the time, couldn't afford to purchase her. Now let's take a step back and look at the structure and hierarchy of Verdigris House. The house is ruled by the madam, with Gyokuyou serving as the head maidservant. Just below them are the three princesses, the most coveted women in the entire establishment. This is the highest rank a woman can achieve in the house, and it's said that spending just one night with a princess cost as much as a full year's salary. Currently, the positions are held by Pairin, who specializes in dancing and night services, Meimei, known for her mastery of board games like Go and Shogi, as well as poetry, Joka, who excels in poetry and music, Maomao's mother, Fengxian, also specialized in board games like Go and Shogi. And though she never offered knight services, her reputation alone earned her unmatched status in the house. Verdigris House also rents out a pharmacy, one that Loumen worked in. This makes perfect sense, as the courtesans living and working in the house require constant medical attention. Courtesans regularly take contraceptives and abortifacients to avoid unwanted pregnancies, since in this world, having a child only makes sense within the bounds of marriage. As a result, most women choose not to become pregnant at all. Beyond reproductive care, the pharmacy also treats courtesans suffering from sexually transmitted diseases, with syphilis being the most common. Thanks to its status and resources, the Verdigris House can afford such medicals, but smaller brothels don't have that luxury. So the pharmacy extends its services to women working in other establishments throughout the red light district. To work in Verdigris House, a girl must first become an apprentice courtesan, and that requires talent. Most girls join around the age of 15, as that's the minimum age requirement. From there, they receive basic training, and if they show potential, they proceed to the second stage of their development. Maomao never became a courtesan herself, as she lacked the assets typically expected for the role. On the other hand, courtesans usually retire around the age of 30. The one exception is Pairin, who remains active well into her 30s, something nearly unheard of in this world. If you enjoyed this video, check out my other Apothecary Diaries breakdowns. I've made 5 so far, covering everything from Maomao's best moments to the hidden details in the palace politics. Let me know what topic I should tackle next.